Hello, Anne. I'm delighted to be chatting with such a prolific journalist and author of the Hannah Weybridge crime thriller series. Myself and Steve Evans here.
Hi. Of course, you're the wrong way round on my screen. So Steve is over there.
Oh, sorry. is that way to me? It's in my voice. There he is.
Not to worry too much, Anne. So you're in London, aren't you? So whereabouts are you in London anyway?
I live in East Dulwich, which is southeast London.
South,
Uh,
south of the water then, yeah.
I am south of the water, yes. And we don't go across, you know. At least
right.
the cab drivers didn't used to.
So just on your Twitter profile, it mentions that you're a trustee of the Dulwich Festival.
Yes.
So is that obviously because you live there, but is that a literary festival or is it something else?
It's an arts festival.
Right, okay.
And I have only just been made a trustee. Well, September last year. So during the last festival, I did sort of attend a few things and volunteered a little bit. But so as we're now, I think from the beginning of next month, we start organising, etc. The festival for May coming. So yeah, I just saw a little thing on Facebook, and I said, "Oh, we're looking for trustees," and I thought, "Oh, maybe I could do that." Maybe.
Excellent.
And so I have done, yes. So it covers all the arts really. So there's a major part of it is the artists' open house. So you can go around and see various types of art, you know, fine art, textiles and things like that people do. There are a couple of competitions. There's a flash fiction competition, and I think there's an art competition for children as well. And there are two sort of big fairs. One's in Dulwich Park and one's in Peckham Rye Park. Sorry, no, it's not. It's in Goose Green.
Oh yeah.
Right by the church, which it appears in my last book. So and book, you know, literary interviews as well. So it covers most things.
Yeah. Well, I remember talking about books and reading and literary, urban publishing and Gina Kirkham. Is that how you met Gina, through urban publishing and Matthew?
We did. I think we met. Matthew did I don't think it was a Christmas party, but it was a party after I had already published my book. I'm not sure. I think Gina had as well, and we met at that, and we became, you know, we just instantly became friends. We keep saying we're going to do another meetup, but it doesn't happen. Well, COVID, you know, and all sorts of other things have happened since then. But yes, it was. So Matthew published the first 4 books in the series, and then Urbane Publishing publications closed in, I think it was the end of March 21.
Yeah, it was just after lockdown, wasn't it? That was the end of urban publishing, unfortunately. Yeah.
And then so then I went to Red Dog Press. So they reproduced new editions of the first 4 books, and then published Stage Call. And then before that, they also, I don't think it's anything to do with me, but they also ceased publishing books. But just before that, I'd got my rights back anyway. And so I republished all mine again for my imprint, which is Urban Fox Books. And I think that tickled Matthew from Urbane. Thought that was really fun. He got the joke straight away, you know, sort of like urban about red dog, fox, you know. So
yeah, nice one, bit of a play on words there. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yes, and then in November I published the last book in the last book so far in the series, completely independently. And so I obviously followed the because I use the same covers that very generously donated by Red Dog. I had to do a similar thing for Murder in the Cathedral. Who do I think I am? Pete Elliott, Murder in the Lady Chapel. And so I actually took some photos, and then my graphic designer also came and took some photos, and he then did the cover, which I think is lovely. So should I just? Can you see it? I don't know. I don't see anything.
Looks superb.
But that person there is one of my chorister friends from the church choir.
Yeah.
And so obviously you wouldn't identify him from that, but
right.
He keeps wanting royalties as well. So no.
Before we focus on the novels, can we go back in time a bit?
Yes.
So, the 6 of them so far in the Hannah Weybridge series. But tell us about your background as a freelance journalist. Is there a specialist training course or apprenticeship for this? Or do you just have to keep writing until it starts to shine?
I was a staff journalist. So I sort of did training at IPC magazines, and I worked there for some time. And while I was there, I started a bit of freelance, and then I got the opportunity to be made redundant, which meant I could sort of have a bit of cash to set me up to go freelance. And so then I just, apply. I mean, copy editing, and that is all the same. It's just you apply it to a different focus or a different subject, So I worked for all sorts of publications. I did some in-house publications. I did one for Shell magazine. One for Shell, and it was their Southern operations. And I must say, I do think this is a really good a good setting for a closed, locked room syndrome book, because I actually flew out via helicopter to one of their platforms.
Was that scary?
And it's amazing. I mean, you're so high up, and you're wearing weighted shoes and everything to stop you. I just looked at the biggest man and clung on to him, The thought of going off was just, and it's quite amazing. I mean, the facilities they have, no alcohol, but the food is amazing, because obviously people are working out there for stretches of week, a couple of weeks at a time. So, but I just thought that would be a really good setting for a murder. Haven't done it yet, but I think it'd be a really good setting.
Yeah, I think you're right. Looking at some dramas I've seen on TV over the past few years, there was one in particular I watched a while ago that was set on an oil rig in
what's that? Yeah,
the coast.
The change in the environment or something, wasn't it? The environment message, the green thing.
Yeah, that's it, Terry. Yeah, and it was really quite exciting. But yeah. Anyway,
sorry. Yes.
Go on.
No, I was going to say that the first Vigil was set on a submarine.
Yes.
And that one was terrifying.
Yeah, it is. I mean, because you think it's an enclosed space and all that, and it's what you do if anything happens, the same as a rig, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it would drive me around the bend, but there you go.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go and talk about the Hannah Weybridge series. 6 so far. Is there more to come, or are we going in a different direction now?
Well, before lockdown, even or before the pandemic, I'd started writing a standalone psychological thriller, really. And during lockdown, I found it very difficult to write. I mean, I'm sure lots of other people found life very different, and so that's when I thought, I can't do this. And I thought, I know what I can do. I can go back to my friends in the 90s with Hannah Weybridge. So that's why I wrote Stage Call. And, that was great for me, because I was back with the characters and the world that I've created there. So I've always thought it would be a 7-book. No, I haven't always thought that. That's a lie. After about book 3 or 4, I thought maybe 7 books, So there'd possibly be, I think what a lot of people have said to me is it would be really nice to have a 7th one that really sort of rounds it all off, because there are still themes going on throughout the books. So that would be quite fun to do. What I am doing at the moment, actually, is something completely different. I'm writing or I'm in the middle of a young adult novel, and it's magical realism, and it's such great fun. I don't think I've had such fun writing anything. And I started doing it because my granddaughter sat there once and she said, "Oh, I hate books." And I said, "Did you hear that?" And she said, "What?" And I said, "Well, I heard two hearts break. One was your grandmother's, who's an author, and one is your mother, who's an English teacher." You know? And she went, "Oh," you know, as they do,
Yeah,
whatever. And then when a year or so ago, she asked me to write her a murder mystery dinner party for her birthday to do. And so I did that. And having done it, I kept thinking, I must be able to do something with this, you know, because it's such a waste of time otherwise, a one-off. And so actually, that's part of the young adult book, is the murder mystery dinner party. So that's, you know, I've sort of incorporated that as part of what goes on.
Okay. And you mentioned there children and grandchildren. Can you tell us about the non-fiction books? I think there's 7 I've counted. You've written Parenting Without Tears. There's a couple of books about applying for university.
I did.
Tell us about them.
When I was freelance, I'm always freelance now, but at one point when I was freelance, I'd contacted Wayland publishers to see if they'd got any freelance work going. And they said, "Oh, come down and see us." And I thought, "Oh, okay." So I went to Hove, I think they're in, and I walked away with an agreement to write women in history, women in sport.
Brilliant.
Oh,
And I know nothing about sport, but I soon found out. You know? So I just researched the whole thing. And that was a really good seller, actually, that one. Unfortunately, I'd signed it as a fee, so I didn't get royalties.
Yeah.
You know, I know, daft thing. But sometimes when you're freelance, you think, money, you know.
Yeah.
And then
you do what's best at the time.
I wrote another book for them, which is called Teenage Pregnancy.
Yeah.
So I did that one.
And how to do it?
No.
No.
It was sort of things like, you know, how to tell your mum and
oh, right.
Consequences.
Yeah. And then I wrote Your Only Child, which was at the time was one of the very few books on only children. You know, there were quite a lot of sort of academic papers and things like that. But as a mother of an only child, I thought, use my experiences. I had lots of other people who were either they were only children or they had only children, and there were some who were, I was an only child, I'd never have one, you know, I'd always have more than one, and it was the other way around on some of them. So that was for Bloomsbury. And then I did Applying to University and Surviving University. And then two books that came from my website, which I've got a parenting website, because I did a lot of parenting writing. So one is Living with Teenagers, and the other one is about discipline, loving discipline.
Okay.
So that's all the non-fiction.
That's a great range.
Yeah,
it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask you at this point about Urban Fox books, but we touched on that a little bit or just before. But did you find it difficult setting that up, or did it come quite easy to you? You know, the transfer between Urban Publishing and Red Fox and so on, and into Urban Fox.
No, I found it really difficult, actually. And for somebody who's worked in publishing virtually all her life, you'd have thought it'd have been slightly easier, you know. I think because I've never had to do the formatting and all the other bits that go with it, you know, and the marketing. And unfortunately, with my last book, the marketing just went by the by because I'd had this accident and. You know, there wasn't much I could do at the time. But yes, I think it is quite hard. I think the important thing is to employ people, pay people to do the bits you can't do, and make sure you get the right people to do those things for you. You know, sort of proofreading, editing, cover design, formatting.
Yeah.
So yes, yeah. And I was toying around with all sorts of ideas for a name, but I thought if I use something like a generic one like Urban Fox Books,
yeah.
I can publish anything. Then it doesn't have to be by Anne Coates.
That's true. Yeah, you can. Yeah, there's no specialization. Then you can do a range of genres.
Yeah, yeah. So
okay,
watch this space.
Okay. Well, we've mentioned that. Well, just then again, the range and breadth of your writing. What fiction do you yourself enjoy reading? Is this a great? Again, is this a wide range of genres, or do you particularly like thrillers?
No, I do like thrillers very much, but I don't read so much romance now, although I used to, because I used to work as a fiction editor for romance, you know, so I read probably more than I'd ever need to for
Mills and
those.
Boon type of novels.
Yes, yeah, some of those, and so I used to read loads of science fiction, which I don't read particularly now. I still like sometimes I like a good literary novel, you know, and I like going back sometimes to some of my old favourites, you know. And I was at well, actually, I was at a funeral yesterday, and somebody said to me, I remember reading Ulysses, and you explained it to me how each did I, you know.
I couldn't make sense of that myself. No chance.
And it was funny because we'd studied at school Portrait of an Artist I love James Joyce, you know, the Portrait of an Artist as a young man, and he wrote in it something like I was a child of tired loins, you know, because his mother had so many children. And I told my mother, who was actually number 13, but they didn't all survive. And I said to my mother, you are a child of tired loins. And he didn't speak to me for a week.
So when you get your ideas for when you write a story, where do your ideas come from for your story and the characters? Do you write things down, or does it come to you in your head, or have you just got to, you know, do you just generally plot over the course of time?
I'm not a plotter, but if I get an idea, I always write ideas. I always write ideas down somewhere. But the first book, Dancers in the Wind, was based on. I did some work for News of the World, their colour supplement, and I did actually do an interview with a prostitute and a police officer at King's Cross. And they didn't use the story in the end because it was so sad, you know. It was to go with the documentary, and it was awful. And afterwards, I just thought, what if? And so I used that to carry on. And I had done other work with writing about prostitutes and prostitution, so that fitted in quite well. And then I don't know why I did, but I wrote 3 chapters of Silent Judgment, and I just left it. And then Matthew said, you know, I can see this as a trilogy, and I thought, blimey, I've got 3 chapters of a trilogy.
Big jump.
So that one carried on from there. But the funny thing for me seems to be that often, yes, I do. There's a little idea or an interview I did or something. But it seems to be the reverse for me, because I'm writing books that are set in the 90s, and then suddenly now I'm doing something that is appropriate to that, you know. So Death, Silent Judgment, there are a lot of homeless people there, and for the last few years, probably 4 or 5 years, I don't know, during the winter, one night I work not every Saturday night, but you know, so many Saturday nights, doing a homeless shelter thing, and that was just. And I suddenly thought, gosh, I'm going the opposite way round. Instead of writing about what I've just been doing, it's almost predicting where I'm going, you know. And then when Songs of Innocence, I mean, that was quite I don't know. I walk past Peckham Rye Park an awful lot, you know, and the idea of a hand coming up with these little boys fishing, that was the vision that I just had, you know. And often my books start with a picture in my mind, not words, pictures. And it was this hand coming up, you know, these poor little boys who were about 9 or 10, you know, fishing when they shouldn't be. And I was actually writing about that, and I won't spoil it for anybody, but there's a group in there who are really the gangsters, the criminals in it. And somebody said to me, well, how did you find out about them? I said, well, I really hope they don't exist, actually. I thought I'd made them up. So I really do hope I made those ones up. And, you know, I think Perdition's Child is about, you know, the people who were sent. And I did work on a couple of books written by people who had been sent to Australia on the child migration scheme and then came back, you know, to try and find their families. And very often their families had been told they were dead. They'd been told your families don't want you. You know, it was a horrible, horrible situation. And so that sort of, having read those books and worked on those books with people, that sort of hung in my mind, you know, it was there. Yeah. Stage Call is, you know, it's the Old Vic is, my mum was born in Waterloo, and she and my grandmother, my mum went to the Italian Conti stage school, and she and my grandmother used to go to the Old Vic and, you know, obviously to watch it. And my mum said to me, oh, I was so embarrassed because apparently my grandmother got out a cheese and onion roll or something and started eating it in the middle, whatever they were watching, you know. But sort of so a lot of the stories around Waterloo as well, you know, it's where my mum's family were. And that book, Stage Call, is dedicated to my mum because it was, you know.
Okay.
All the magazines, women's magazines, did you do articles for and write for? And I mean, you did Reader's Digest as well, didn't you?
Yeah.
No, for Reader's Digest, I actually abridged books.
Oh, yeah.
So,
short versions.
Sorry?
The shortened versions.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, sometimes by 50%. You know.
Wow. Right,
if anybody's out there wants me to cut their manuscript, and I think I think that's why I write very succinctly, because I've been trained to take out the extraneous words, you know, for when I'm cutting a book. And then I also did not just for Reader's Digest. Orion did what was it? Something classics, compact classics.
Oh, right.
And I had to cut Middlemarch, which is one of my favourite books, in half.
Oh.
And I thought I was going to have a nervous breakdown, you know. I was literally taking out ands and putting in a semicolon, you know what I mean? It was down to that level.
It's drastic, isn't it, when it's getting to that level?
It was shocking, yes. And it was quite funny because one of them, they obviously we didn't get very much credit for it, but I'd also abridged Anna Karenina, and when they did an article in the Guardian about it, and somebody said to me, "Oh, Anne, I saw," you know, it didn't say I'd done it, but and so I read the article, and I thought, "Gosh, this bloke knows his novel." Because, and I thought, how does he know which lines I've cut, you know, and they'd actually sent him my version, you know, my edited version, so you could see the lines that were cut and the themes that were cut, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm going off on a tangent now, but have you had any approaches, or have you approached yourself for any television or film company for the production of Hannah Weybridge novels?
I talk to myself every day about this. Yeah. I would love this. And it was funny at this funeral yesterday when somebody said to me, "Well, Hannah Weybridge, it's got such a lovely sound to it. You know, you can just see that as a." Yeah. And I said, and it was. They said, "How did you come up with a name?" And it was, when I worked in fiction, we were always extremely careful about naming characters for obvious reasons, you know. Yeah. So I thought Hannah, well, it's a sort of variation of Anne. It was a bit of a joke with that. And I just thought Weybridge sounds a nice sort of
great name.
Surname. So, but it was lucky, because if you Google Hannah Weybridge, you get my books, because there is nobody called Hannah Weybridge.
Brilliant. Yeah. Excellent marketing. Yeah.
So I thought, well done me, you know. But no, it would. I mean, I think that's every author's dream.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotta be.
But I wouldn't want to interfere with it, you know. I would just go away and watch. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if only you could be as famous as Anne Cleeves, who wrote the Vera series. That's what you want, isn't it?
But she went for a very, very long time before that happened. Because I remember talking to her once, and she said to me, "I can't believe, you know, I think we looked up and there was a billboard or something." She said, "I really can't believe that's happened, because I went for years writing when nobody sort of looked at them, and then suddenly, you know, you've got Vera, the Shetland series, and you know, it's fantastic." And of course, but you know, they don't always do Anne's books. You know, it's based on her characters a lot.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But yes, I did actually. A really silly story. But I went into my local bookshop, and I'd ordered a book which they sent, and I was holding it up against the bookshelves to actually try and so that my books could photobomb it, you know, as it were. Anyway, I couldn't do it with two hands. And I said, there was a woman standing there, and I said to her, "Excuse me," I said, "could I borrow your hand?" Anyway, so she put her hand up like that. And she said, I said, I want to get my books in up there. And she said, "Oh, are you Anne Cleeves?" And I said, "No, sadly not. I'm Anne Coates." And she said, "Yeah, but you've still got 6 books up there." She said, "I've just done 6 books or number 7 or something." I went, "Oh, that's lovely, you know." And as I was leaving, I said, "Oh, sorry, I didn't catch your name." And it was Jenny Eclair.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And I'm sure she thought I'd asked her because I knew who she was. But I was a daydream, you know. So.
You're probably embarrassed then because you didn't recognise her, perhaps.
I think she probably thought I was nicer then, you know.
Yeah. Speaking of Anne Cleeves, she's on locally here on the Wirral in the next fortnight. Actually, she's doing a talk, and I went to get some tickets the other day. Sold out as quick as you like. Gone, absolutely gone. So I've got no chance.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So when you're doing your writing, then I know we touched on this before, and you know you're not you're a prance. Get my words mixed up now.
Yes,
a prancer rather than a plotter.
Yes.
But so when you're considering this, do you have notebooks and sticky notes all over the house, or do you make notes properly, or you have it A to Z, or?
I've got loads of notebooks, and then I forget which one I'm using. You know, so absolutely ridiculous. The area is fine because I live. It's often set. It's set in London. I know. You know. I if I don't know the place, I then go and have another look and check it out. You know,
easy to do
make sure I
research,
do it. And I've got, you know, a Bible, you know, with all the names in, and keep that. But I did make a mistake. Actually, in the second book, at a funeral, this homeless lady says, "Oh, you read that poem beautifully. That was my sister's favourite." And when it came to Perdition's Child, the same woman had to have a brother, not a sister.
Oh dear.
Thinking, oh no. And you know, there's always going to be somebody who will have read that really carefully and said, "You got that wrong." But I managed to get round it, because when I was doing it, I said, "Oh, but you said you had Hannah says, but you said you had a sister, you referred to your sister." And she said, "No, you probably talking about the sisters, because she used to go and work in convents."
Way else. Yeah.
Got around that one then.
Got around that one. I thought that was quite neat, really.
It is. Yeah.
Not unlike Gina Kirkham, who
I know.
you heard the story from Gina. Killed a character off in chapter 3 and brought him back in chapter 20 or something.
And I have done that before. You know, I always think, if you're a planner, it must be so much easier to write a book, because you're not like me. I'm going back now, did I do this or did I do that? And often the first draft of the book is so rubbish, it's not true. And I can't, I think, well, it's a bit like a skeleton, you know, with a finger stuck out of the head, you know, all the bones, all the bits are in the wrong places. So I have to sort of reassemble. So I actually usually do that physically. You know, I usually print it out, cut up, and, you know, do that sort of thing. But I really enjoy letting the characters take me on their voyage. So that's I just, and sometimes I think, often I think, wow, there were clues all the way along, but I didn't get them. And I think my subconscious must work a lot faster than I do, because, you know, it's and I got to the end of it, I thought, oh, that's what it meant all that way along, you know, but I hadn't realised until I got to the denouement, and there it was.
They're all organic.
So sorry?
They're all organic creations, aren't they? You know, they grow, grow with you. Yeah. Can I ask you about your excellent website, ancoatsauthor.com? It's really impressive. Did you set this up yourself?
I did, yes. Really? I mean, yes. I suppose I couldn't afford to pay anybody else to do it.
You've done a great job by yourself.
So, and I know, you know, everybody's got all their books and everything, and I've got the tigers, because
I love that image.
I just took that photo at the zoo, and I just thought, I love that photo, so I'll use it, you know. So yes, I did. And of course, what is good about websites is that you can change them. You know, you can add to them, and so during lockdown, I did the cocktail hour or something. I think it was the cocktail hour. So I had to choose a cocktail to have with me, and we were just talking about what we were doing during during the pandemic. And I had interviewed a load of authors, and, you know, it was great fun, because they would choose cocktail as well, and we were all saying what we were doing during you know, and they were people that I would have met at, you know, festivals and things like that, people I knew. So,
Okay, finally from me then, what advice would you give to someone who's writing a book for the first time? What's the best thing they can do to start off with?
To start off with, keep writing, and reading. I think reading is the most important thing, because you can get, you learn, even if you're reading a book and you think that book is rubbish, you can say, but why is it rubbish?
True.
What are the things that go against this book for me, or for, you know, the other person? But the other thing is, sometimes, and it certainly did for me, I wrote a lot of short stories, and it took me a very long time to find my voice so that it flowed, you know. And the first stories I wrote, nobody took them, you know. I don't know why, but they didn't. But gradually I found the way to write, and I think you can only do that by practicing and keeping on writing, you know, even if it's 500 words a day. It keeps the creative juices going, and you learn. That's the only way to do it, I think. Nobody's sort of born a writer, you know, sort of like just write. Well, I suppose there is somebody's going to put their hand up and say, oh yes, there is. You know. But you have to practice, like any craft. You know, if you're an actor, you don't suddenly get the leading role. You have to practice your art in smaller roles first. And so that's what I would say. Practice.
Excellent.
Keep writing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it looks like time's caught up with us. But I've really enjoyed this. It's absolutely flown by the last 30 minutes. But thank you very much for spending time with us. And let's keep in touch. We have been.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been really interesting. Thank you very much, John. Yeah.
But for now on, cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.